hello. I must say I did rush here today. Do not like the idea of Thimble being left in that troll camp. Dear, dear, dear. It's been worrying me all week. A lot of us have spent the week with our ears pressed hard against the walls of the elders' cabins so we can hear what's going on. It seems that we're going to have some surprise party arranged at some point, but that's all we heard. I just hope that it doesn't mean that the pixies from the pixie realm come over again and cause havoc. Goodness me, much as I like them. I don't know how they drink all that parchment beer. I really don't. Anyway, enough about that, I know. Let's find out what on earth poor Thimble is going to do now. The trolls had hung the net holding Thimble on a nearby tree to the edge of the camp, and it gave Thimble a bird's eye view of the burly beasts as they busied themselves collecting firewood and filling large pots with earwigs. Oh, yuck, said Thimble quietly. I hope they will not ask me to join them in earwig stew. But if only that were all they were thinking of cooking in their pots that night. Some of the smaller trolls sat to the side of the camp, chopping up wild, muddy potatoes.
This pot will be for the wiggy bugs,
said one of the trolls, picking up a pile of copper pots from a nearby log, which had been chopped and shaped to make a makeshift table.
This one should hold the potatoes,
he continued, taking one out of the pile and holding it up.
And this one will hold our main ingredient, our delicious fairy friend,
he said, holding up yet another shiny pan in the direction of Thimble. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Poor Thimble suddenly realised that eating earwigs was the last of her worries, and that if she didn't find a way out very soon, she would probably find herself belonging to some kind of troll supper. Soon the trolls started singing as they worked, and Thimble decided that now would be a good time to try and reach her sword again. But try as she may, she was so tightly spun into the rope of the net that she couldn't free her arms enough to prise her sword from her bag. Bother and goodness, she huffed as the singing trolls grew louder and louder.
Pinch punch every day of the month, be sure to get your feed. We'll fill our pots and make them hot through ruthlessness and greed.
Goodness! They all chanted in gruff voices. Finally, when they were happy with the fire they had built, they lit the dry leaves at the bottom so that the flames could climb up to the pots filled with water on the top. This was not good at all for Thimble, who was beginning to think she may never get out of the flatlands or ever see her home again. Doran slumped over and picked her up, peering at her through the rope cage.
You will see how these trolls feast now, fairy thing,
he said, and was just about to place his big, hairy hand in the net when there was an almighty crash in the trees behind them, and all the trolls turned to see what had made it.
Put my friend down at once,
came a voice through the woods. It was Blossom, and she had been joined by some people who were very familiar to Thimble, on fleeing from the troll's capture, in Trollican, I may add. Blossom had hurried back to the Opals to find Leaf and Willa, who had finally been reunited. Blossom had then flown with the two beautiful creatures to the Elvian realm and asked for help, and Thane promised without hesitation to come with them to save Thimble from Doran's men. Sonica ordered that his warriors follow on foot, and soon a huge rescue party was on its way. Doran looked confused, staring at Blossom and Thane as they sat on the backs of the two lunar kai.
Do you join us for supper?
He inquired and gave the order for his men to seize them. Blossom then raised her wand and said, We come in peace and only for the safe return of our friend. Order your men to stop, Doran. But when Doran and his men ignored her words, she waved her wand and with a flash of light, all the trolls, including Doran, stood frozen to the spot and unable to move. "A useful spell I have learnt on my travels, Thimble," she said jovially, and with another blast of her wand, the net fell around Thimble's feet and she was free. Goodness. "Blossom! Thane!" exclaimed Thimble. "Never have I been more pleased to see anyone." And she ran over to greet them and was lifted onto the back of Leaf by Thane. Holding onto his waist as tightly as she could, both horses raised their legs up into the air, and soon they were flying high in the night sky and away from Doran and his men, who shouted and yelled but could do no more than watch. "Enjoy your earwig stew!" shouted Thimble as they left, and soon they were flying over the opals towards the Elvian realm. "Don't worry, Doran, the spell'll lift by sunrise," shouted down Blossom, and they disappeared into the night sky. Sonica's men turned on their heels on seeing that Thimble was safe, and they all returned back to the Whispering Caves of Org in time for supper. Sonica and the other elves were overjoyed to see their two fairy friends safe and well, and that night they held a big feast in celebration of Thimble's success at finding Blossom. But something was troubling the little fairy, and Thane noticed that she was unusually quiet after she had consulted with Sonica about the moon time. "Why the silence of thought, Thimble?" he gently asked her as she sat to the edge of the party watching the fire. Thimble looked up at him and tried her best to hold back her tears. "Oh, Thane, if I could be as happy as everyone else, I would be. But I feel I have failed," she said, wrapping her woolen coat around her as the winds picked up. Thane looked a bit surprised. "Failed?" he inquired. "How have you failed?" Thimble took a deep breath and sighed. "I have just discovered that today is the first moon in Neptune, and I am so far away from home that I will never get back in time for the next lunar cycle. So I have very much failed. Failed the Queen, and failed my task," she said in a croaky voice, and all the tears that she had tried so hard to hold in began to stream down her tiny cheeks. Thane embraced the little fairy, and she could feel his strong arms around him, and it made her feel a little better. "To fail, Thimble, means that you would have given up, but you never did. And because of your bravery, Blossom can now go home. You have not failed, little fairy. Far from it," said Thane reassuringly. But Thimble guessed that he was only trying to make her feel better. Then he produced a small leather book from his pocket, and Thimble recognised it to be the book that she had given him as a farewell gift on their last visit. Flicking through the pages, he stopped on a page all about the moon cycles of the Moorland Valley. And taking a deep breath, he read, "Moon cycles in the Moorland realm are fascinating. It is the only realm in the kingdom to have its cycles a whole moon, or two in some instances, after all the other realms. For example, when the moon is in Saturn in the Pixie realm, it won't be the moon in Saturn in the Moorland realm until the moonrise after next. In other words, for a day and a night difference." Thane put the book down, and Thimble's face changed from tears to laughter as she realised that she had completely forgotten about the timekeeping differences and was still very much in time to be home with Blossom before the moonrise in Neptune in her fairy valley. Of course we are in a different moon time. Of course we'll have time. I might make it back in time," she exclaimed, flinging her arms into the air. And she was suddenly extremely pleased that she'd given that book to Thane as a gift. Oh yes, she might have completely overlooked it. Thane and Thimble jumped around with joy for a few moments before Thimble ran off to find Blossom so that they could prepare to set off on completing their journey home as soon as possible, but not before they danced around the fire and sang songs with their friends. Of course not. Oh, those are the calling birds. So we can all sleep a bit sounder tonight, knowing that Thimble and Blossom are safe, finally, and are about to go on the last leg of their journey. Goodness. Hopefully they'll get back in time. This is all very positive. I leave today on a much higher note than last time. Yes. Thimble's come so far. There is always a fear at times that when dangerous things occur, we lose hope, but she never lost hope. And hope is that wondrous thing. Do you know, one day you will let me finish about hope. Anyway, I'd better go. The calling birds are still crowing. Until next time, take care. And remember, don't stop believing, especially in you.